Today, I want to share a very interesting book and a methodology with you called the Pomodoro Technique. This study technique uses very simple technology, a kitchen timer. But this technique offers great advantages to helping us build our mental capacity to learn and focus. So keep watching to the end of the video because I have a variation on the Pomodoro method that takes ideas from both strength training and Dungeons and Dragons to make your study time even more effective. I also have another video on this channel with a 25-minute timer. So you can watch the timer. You don't even have to go out and buy one. You can just use that as a timer in order to practice this technique and see if it's good for you. For many of you, you may have heard of the Pomodoro method and are wondering what it is, and for others, this might be all new. So the good news is that it's a very simple technique. Many people find it very effective in getting themselves to focus and maximize their study and learning. So the Pomodoro technique was first introduced in a book by the same name, written by Francesco Cirillo. I'll link to the book in the description below. And it's a very simple idea. Our brains are not really designed for cramming information into them over a long period of time. We lose focus and concentration, and then the time we're spending becomes more and more unproductive. So at the same time, we also do have a lot of topics and concepts that we want to learn that require time to learn them. So what can we do? The answer can be summed up in an old question. How do you eat an elephant? Answer, one bite at a time. Now, I'm personally never going to advocate for the eating of any elephants. However, the concept of dividing and conquering makes a lot of sense when we apply it to learning and studying. So, a lot of times something big broken apart is a lot easier to understand. We understand the separate concepts and then we synthesize them into something that makes sense. So it makes a lot of sense when we're learning and studying to do that with our focus as well. So I also recommend using this approach when you're teaching online learning as well. Don't try to cram 5 hours of lecture into one online session. Break it apart because the students simply will not be able to focus for long periods of time. So onto the Pomodoro method. So the idea is to divide your learning time or study time into small 25-minute increments. You start a timer and then you review for 5 minutes for the first 5 minutes of the timer, and then you study for 20 minutes. And then you take a short break. You repeat that process 4 times and then take a longer break. Now, some people will bookend this. So they'll say, okay, start the timer, review for 5 minutes, study for 15, review for 5, take a short break, repeat that 4 times, take a long break. Now, the real magic to this is that during that time, you're completely dedicated to the task or the subject at hand. All other interruptions, such as checking your phone, playing with a little gadget, or otherwise breaking your focus, are not allowed. And in my opinion, that's the real magic or the trick of the technique, because it sets that defined time limit that lets you both focus and in the back of your head, you realize that it's going to only be for a specific amount of time, followed by a short break where you can check your phone and you can make sure you didn't miss some life-changing email in that 25-minute block, right? So that's going to allow you to both concentrate as well as know that there's a limit to how long you have to concentrate before you get that little mini break, and at the end of 4 Pomodoros, the longer break. Now, just be careful not to allow those breaks to get away from you, so you get trapped in sort of a cycle trap where you're constantly reviewing TikTok or you're looking at Facebook or something. You can get hooked into that, and that's a whole subject for another video. So unless you're watching this channel, in that case, just keep watching all day. No, actually, I please don't. I'd rather that you were successful learners and watch my channel for 8 hours or whatever. So for those that are still building their study abilities, like younger children, this timer can actually be a really useful tool to start them off with 5 or 10-minute blocks of time of that concentrated effort, and then they can build their ability to focus from there. So, the book is definitely worth getting. It's definitely worth picking up, and it goes into much greater detail than here. It even talks about using the technique with groups. So it also covers some other elements that are more advanced, such as recording your progress, the internal and external interruptions and how to deal with those, other useful tips. So I'd recommend giving it a few cycles, trying it out, and then picking up the book to get that more advanced and applying those more advanced elements. So what about my own personal modifications? Did I mention strength training and Dungeons and Dragons? I did. I mentioned both of those, right? So we have strength training and we have Dungeons and Dragons. So why would I bring strength training and Dungeons and Dragons into this? Well, one element of the traditional method that I don't like so much with the Pomodoro is the idea that the time is incredibly fixed. So it's 25 minutes break, 25 minutes break, so on and so forth. And I don't necessarily like having that fixed time set because I think that kind of sets you into a bit of a rigid pattern. Now, there is some reason to do that, and that's not a bad thing, but there are other concepts that I think are important as well that go beyond the structure of a fixed time set. In strength training, we want to vary our sets and weights to help train our muscles to adapt not to a specific set count or a specific weight, but to adapt to different inputs. And I think the same technique can be applied to mental training. So I like to vary each time run that I do on the Pomodoro so that they're not all the same. And this is where Dungeons and Dragons come in, or more specifically, the dice that we use for Dungeons and Dragons. So with Dungeons and Dragons, they have multi-sided dice, and I like to use various sided dice to do this, but specifically I like to use my 8-sided and 12-sided dice. But in this example, I'll use a 6-sided dice because most people have those, okay? So what I'll do is I'll roll the 6-sided dice, and I'll multiply by 4. And that gives me the study time I'm going to do. For example, if I roll and I get a 3, okay? Then I'll set the timer for 4 times that, 3 times 4, 12 minutes. So I'll set my timer for 12 minutes. And this will result in times, if I roll a 1, from 4 minutes, all the way to, if I roll a 6, 24 minutes. Now, if I roll a 1, that's only going to be 4 minutes, so that's going to be a complete review block. All I will do during that 4 minutes is review. If I roll a 6, that's going to be a full 24-minute block, so I'll do the 5-minute review, 20-minute study, or 19-minute study, right? And in addition to making sort of an element of fun and randomness, I think it keeps me a little more intellectually agile to use this method to add that randomness in there. Now, of course, you can read the book, and I highly recommend it. And again, the book is by Francisco Cirillo. It's a very good book. It's worth picking up, but it's also worth trying it out a couple of times to see if it's something for you. So check out my other videos. So you have the timer there, you have the methodology there. You can give it a try. The book is far more detailed. It's something that can really help you build your mental muscles. And again, I've linked to it below. If you'd like to try out the technique with a timer, like I say, I have another video on here, 25-minute timer video, and then you can go through a series of Pomodoros using it, right? Next time you need to focus your attention, you can use that as a way of doing so. So thank you so much for watching. Check out some of the other videos on my channel, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to find more ways to use technology, both simple and complex, in order to learn and study and teach. And hit the like button if this was useful for you. Share it with others that might benefit from it, and join the community. Comment down below. What do you think? Have you used the Pomodoro technique? Did you try it and then stop using it? Is it something that you want to use or start using again? I'd be very interested in finding out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.